Okay, in this video, I'd like to go over how to get set up to build Python bindings for PGMcpp, because presumably most people are going to want to access the functionality of the program through a Python interface, because it's a lot more user-friendly than going the C++ route. So if we go to the GitHub repository, for this particular video we're going to want to be in the PyBindings directory. So if we go to the PyBindings directory, there's a README dedicated specifically to how to get set up to compile the bindings. It's best to compile them on your particular system setup because they are sensitive to what version of Python you're using. So we'll build it from scratch in this video so that you know how to do that. So going down to the Windows notes, because again we're on 64-bit Windows for this example, there's a couple of things we need to install and set up. The first thing we need is Python for Windows, as available from this link here. So I'll just go to that link. And we want to download a version of Python. Anything including or past 3.10 should be fine. I'll just use the latest for this video, which is 3.12.3. So I download the installer. That's downloaded, and now we just need to install Python. All right, so we're going to install Python here. We're going to want to add it to the path, so we're going to want to select this option here. All right, and we can do install now. All right, and then lastly we're going to want to disable this path length limit. So go ahead and select that option. And then that should be it for Python. So if we go into the source code directory that we downloaded, doesn't matter where. I'll go into the PyBindings folder, and then if I just select the address bar here, type cmd, that'll open a command prompt instance. And just to test that Python's been installed, we should be able to just do Python version, and we get back the version of Python that we have installed. So it's been installed and it's now available on our system. So having done that, we're going to go back to the repository, because the next thing we need to do is we need to install the dependencies. So if we look in the PyBindings folder, there's this pip requirements file that's provided, and that tells us which dependencies we need to have installed in order to build the bindings. So we can install the first one, which is pybind11, so we should be able to just pip install pybind11. And then the package manager will go off and install that, and then we need to do the same for setup tools. Pip install setup tools. So it'll go and it'll fetch setup tools for us, and that should be everything we need to set up on the Python side. Nice and easy. Okay, so the last thing we need in order to build the bindings is we need an appropriate compiler. So on Windows we have to be using the MSVC compiler, because that's the same compiler that was used to build this thing. So in order to get that, we have to go the Visual Studio route. So for whatever reason, doesn't want to work in Firefox, so I'm going to have to really drink the Microsoft Kool-Aid here, and I will open it up in Edge. Okay, so the free community edition is fine for this, so we can just download that, and there it goes. Now it's downloading. Okay, it's done, so get rid of Edge. Alright, and now we want to install, we want to use the Visual Studio setup file. Alright, so it'll get the installer ready for us. And once we get to the point of selecting what we're after, what we're looking for is the desktop development in C++ workload. So we're looking for desktop development in C++. There we go. We got this guy. Desktop development in C++. So this is the workload we need to install in order to build the Python bindings. All right, so we're going to go ahead and install while downloading, and then we just have to wait for it to finish doing its thing. Alright, and once the installation is done, in typical Windows fashion, we're going to have to reboot, so we'll just go ahead and reboot quickly. Okay, we're back after rebooting. So to build the Python bindings, we're going to go back into our PyBindings folder, open up a command prompt instance from this location, and then we can refer to the README in the PyBindings folder of the repo, and it's this command here that we're looking to issue. So we're going to copy that command, right-click, paste it into our command prompt instance, and we don't need the 3 for our particular setup, so we'll just get rid of that. So now when we run this command, it will build the Python bindings. So I'll bring up the PyBindings directory again so we can see what happens. So we run this, and Python will go and build bindings for PGMcpp. Alright, and once that's been completed, I'll just CLS to clear my screen here. We'll see that this this bindings file, this Python extension file, has shown up, and the CP part here will tell you what version of Python this is for. So once we built it, we just want to drag and drop it into this precompiled bindings folder. Okay, now that it's been built, we need to test it. So in order to test it, we're going to be using this command here. So there is a testing script that's provided with this folder. So if we invoke the testing script after having built the bindings, it will go through and it'll run the test, and if we see green passes across the board, then the Python bindings have been successfully built and tested, and we are ready to go. So that's it for this video. We started with getting Python for Windows installed, and then we handled the required dependencies for building the Python bindings, and then finally we went through the process of getting the Visual Studio installer, installing the desktop development in C++ workload, and then building and testing the Python bindings for PGMcpp.